some market prediction, what big banks and institutions are saying right now
Very cool.
for the S&P.
Cool.
And right now, getting to it, well, the S&P for this year-end target, the BMO has the highest price target for this year-end at 6,100. They recently updated on September 20. The second highest is Evercore, with also Goldman Sachs in line. Goldman Sachs, you see it with a 5,600 price target, but they recently updated this month for $6,000 price target year-end, and they actually were worried, citing that they think it's a little bit even too short for how the market is looking. JPMorgan, I'm surprised they actually stuck with Marco Kolonovic's price target of 4,200 year end. He actually left already JPMorgan around 2 months ago because his short positions were actually not working, but they did not move it. The only one that has moved lately has been Goldman Sachs so far. But with the market reaching today, I think 5,900, they don't look pretty far off the BMO, honestly. And seems like the S&P wants to touch 600. But the highest price target, BMO, right now, the highest price target of 6,100, they say that, and they're citing strong market gains as the Federal Reserve cut interest rate. As we saw when the Fed cut interest rates, the market tends to, on average, go up around 15% the following 12 months after the first rate cut. And now they expect the fourth quarter earnings even go beyond large cap, which goes against of what we've been seeing, especially last week for the rest of the 493 companies on the S&P. Right now, they actually cite a comparable to the mid-1990s and avoiding a recession or a soft landing. Bank of America, they have a 5,400 price target, implying almost a 7% drop from actual prices for the S&P. They actually see opportunities not in AI stocks or AI related sectors, but into high dividend stocks, infrastructure, construction, and manufacturing stocks. Sentiment, they say, has shifted to neutral with fewer positive earnings surprises, while major index gains may slow. A bear market is unlikely. I think this is out of the picture, a bear market. I think the Fed has managed to actually have a soft landing, but they say that upcoming earnings from Microsoft, Meta, Apple, and Amazon could bring some volatility. And historically, corrections of 5% or more happen 3 times a year. So they signal that a pullback might likely happen. Goldman Sachs, they raised their price target from 5,600 to 6,000, citing stronger corporate margin growth and steady macroeconomic outlook for next year as well. They project also earnings per share for corporate earnings of America to be around $268 for next year, up from $256, driven by margin expansion. I think that margin expansions, you're going to see it basically because companies are going to be raising the prices of their products. That's going to be a way for them to have higher ratios, higher earnings for them. And they have their, for this year, forecast of earnings per share of 241. They see support from consumer spending, corporate profit rebounds, and strength in mega cap tech and semiconductors. So they're definitely bullish for these earnings.
Sure.
The thing is that CEOs vary against analysts. This report from Bloomberg yesterday, earnings revisions are the most negative since December of 2022, totally against what CEOs are looking. Right now, CEOs are very optimistic about earnings. Analysts right now, they expect for the S&P 500 companies to have an increase on earnings of 4.2% only, which is down from the 7% forecast just in July.
Mm-hmm.
While CEOs right now, they suggest a stronger 16% rise. Even despite the concerns, the S&P is up 22%. So who do you follow? Do you follow analysts or CEOs? I hadn't seen.
Maybe neither. I don't know. Either. I think, oh man, between the two, dude, analysts, well, actually, I don't know who's wrong more. That'd be kind of cool. We could have like a CEO tracker or like an analyst tracker versus CEO tracker and see who tends to do better in the long term. Because at least like money managers, if you look at like actively managed funds, like it's literally 50-50 performance, like 50% outperform the market, 50% underperform. Yep. If anything, like sometimes the majority tend to underperform the market. So it's about as a coin flip as you would expect.
And for the S&P 483, as earnings already started,
that's funny.
They were actually performing quite good. They expect earnings to actually match Max 7, at least the gap to be less of such a wide that it's right now. But another quarter of zero earnings growth for the S&P 483. I think investors right now, they're actually bullish for the upcoming quarters rather than the right now. But I think this is not good of a sign for earnings on this quarter. I think the most bullish calls start on the first quarter of 2025. That's what they expect to them to actually start jumping. I think this is one of the main reasons because of interest rates coming down. But I don't know. I wasn't expecting for them to actually have zero growth for now. Sector contribution, Julia, as we already saw, the bull market, its 2-year anniversary on Sunday, October 12th. The S&P has surged almost 70% since the lows, since the bull market started 2 years ago. Technology, no surprise, has led the way with the most contribution, contributing 32% of these gains, also with materials, utilities, and real estate lagging behind. Utilities lagging behind, although it's been the hottest trade so far this year, hottest sector this year, up almost 28% this year alone. But yeah, the market, this is how sectors have contributed. And if we compare here, the S&P 500 growth, when you see it, I think the most important metric for the S&P when it comes to fundamental is earnings per share growth. Since 2021 May, stocks have gotten 19% cheaper based on their price to earnings ratio, dropping from 33.1 times to 26.7 times. So you see that right now companies are becoming way more profitable. Stocks just on this ratio alone doesn't seem too crazy when you compare it. Right now, the bull market profit are just through the roof, and as long as they are able to manage to keep that, the bull market, I don't see no reason for it not to continue.
Sure.
So here's where you see that the growth has not been driven by speculation, but by earnings, and the earnings per share, the most important. But here's where we getting to the side, the bullish momentum. Well, the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, that has been on the news lately after his Sirius XM purchase.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the metrics, one of his favorite indicators, actually the market GDP to the stock market value as well. As of August 30, the total market value of US stocks was around $60 trillion, and the annualized GDP around $25.6 trillion. If you were to take it into the Buffett indicator, it's actually 209%, meaning that the total value of the US publicly traded stocks is actually more than double than the size of the US economy.
Nice.
And the household allocation, as of now, Americans now have the most assets in stocks than any point since the internet boom. Right now, allocation is at around 48%, while debt only at 16% and cash 15%. Another reason of why the market's just been going lately up so much. Households right now 48%. So when you see it, that's where you see that every single dip is getting bought. Honestly, maybe they're actually hoping for a better outcome than expected.
Yeah.
Prior so much high concentration of holdings on equities has led to not so desirable outcomes to what has happened before, but maybe this time is different.
Which, I mean, like, I don't know. This is not surprising to me, simply because, like, the U.S., most, I'd say, employers and even like government institutions have moved away from pensions and moved into 401ks. So that being said, like, that also kind of creates a cyclic problem, because, like, if everyone who has a retirement account now is invested in the market, then the market needs to keep going up. Otherwise, you're screwing over like an entire generation of people who, and like, I mean, the U.S. has like Social Security, but there's obviously like a bunch of issues and concerns with that getting paid out, depending on like how many, like, you know, demographic concerns, among fiscal concerns, among debt, and all of that. So that being said, like, I'm not surprised how much wealth is actually stored in the markets. But that also puts Americans in a pretty precarious situation, because people who do have investment accounts or retirement accounts from their employers to replace pensions are now really heavily depending on market performance, whether they're sort of like actively aware of it or not. So very, yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling great about that.
Yes, this is also that I thought to be interesting. The best 25 stocks since the bull market started 2 years ago, and the worst ones. The best performing stocks since the bull market started, 73 stocks on the S&P 500 have actually rallied more than 100%. Look at NVIDIA alone, 1,072% as of Friday of last week. And while 71 are actually just down. So 429 stocks are actually up since the bull market started. And on the worst performing stocks, I don't know if this has maybe an opportunity for later on the bull market, but 25% top 25 stocks are actually down, actually belong or equivalent to 7, the consumer staple sector. Those have been the worst performing ones. Walgreens, which today was up, actually, they announced they're going to be closing around 1,000 stores. Pharmacies, that's going to help on their cash flow and less spend money. But Walgreens belongs to the consumer staples, many of them down, and that's been the worst performer for the S&P. Well, Nvidia, no wonder, the best performer for the S&P lately. Also, supermicrocomputer, even with the drop it's had, right now up 800%. Nuclear energy as well, performing pretty well. But yeah, if that's
Palantir, FICO, to no one's surprised. Kind of interesting
Also
metas
true.
up there as well. Very, very nice. Yeah, that being said, question from Big Deal Donuts. This is interesting. I wonder what percentage of retirement funds invest in which areas, dividends or consumer discretionary? That's a good question. I think like my guess is like for personal retirement accounts, overwhelming majority is life cycle investing. That just seems to be the default of retirement account money managers. So most likely just like diversified, more aggressive index funds or index exposure, market exposure when you're young, and then kind of moving more and more into money market as you get older. I don't know how dividends kind of filter into that. If that's something that's just kind of like built in defaulted into most retirement programs or most like life cycle investing algorithms, I guess you could say.
Yeah, banks very bullish on it. Expected the market maybe even reaching the 6,000 as they started to change the price target for the S&P.